Good evening, everyone. Friends and newcomers, listeners far and wide, welcome to the latest floating poetry broadcast, the 8th in this weekly series, coming to you live from Weekapaug, Rhode Island, the ocean state, by the sea, the soft and yielding sea. This is your poet and poetorialist, Colin Goedecke. Tonight, entering together into places of tenderness, into the gentle places inside and between us, the tender feelings we can embrace and bring to the world around us, to soften our days, sweeten our time and moments of living. It's a sea misty evening, and you may hear the late day birds serenading us in the background. As I thought about tonight and the theme of tenderness, I was thinking of just words themselves, the very word tenderness. I thought of the French word, which is quite beautiful and so expressive of it all in a way. And the French word is tendresse. Tendresse. Beautiful. And the Italian word, tenerezza. Tenerezza. I also, the day I landed on the theme, I happened to open that very day Mark Nepo's book, Awakenings, wonderful book, which you might appreciate if you don't know about it. And it's by day, and it happened to, of course, address the very life rhyming. Here's the topic of tenderness right in front of me. It started with a quote by the poet Jane Hirschfield, who said, "Tenderness does not choose its own uses. It goes out to everything equally." And his piece, June 6th, when I was arriving, the theme was two monkeys sleeping. And in this piece he said, "We wandered into a corner of the Central Park Zoo, and there, despite the dozens of tourists pointing and tapping the glass, two monkeys were squatting on a perch of stone. To our surprise, they were both in deep sleep, their dark heads bowed to each other, their small frames limp. What was amazing was that their small, delicate hands were touching, their monkey fingers leaning into each other. It was clear that it was this small, sustained touch that allowed them to sleep. As long as they were touching, they could let go. I envied their trust and simplicity. There was none of the human pretense at independence. They clearly needed each other to experience peace. One stirred but didn't wake, and the other, in sleep, kept their fingers touching. How deeply rewarding the life of touch. Each was drifting inwardly, dreaming whatever monkeys dream. They looked like ancient travelers praying inside a place of rest made possible because they dared to stay connected. It was one of the most tender and humbling moments I've ever seen. Two aging monkeys weaving fingertips as if their touch alone kept them from oblivion. I pray for the courage to be as simple in asking for what I need to be." Thank you, Mark Nepo. So I chose, as I intuitively do, a variety of poems for us that I felt spoke to parts of aspects of dimensions of tenderness, which for me encompasses sweetness and gentleness and kindness. And this was back in the spring of 2017 at a pond I've mentioned before, Kitchell Pond, my Walden Pond, back in Morristown, New Jersey, originally Convent Station, New Jersey. And I thought the tenderness of the world's sweetness, and this is called Sweet Air, this poem, Sweet Air, of country spring, now flowering trees, newly cut grass, the earth breathing out again. And tenderness brings to mind for me the tenderness of nature. And this poem, everything is stirring. The tender new leaves of the trees, emergently green, the white feathers of the wading egret, the hems of the high-towered clouds, the wildflowers bright underfoot, the senses, the spirit, mirroring. Everything is stirring. Tenderness is stirring. I'd like to stir that up for us tonight in beautiful ways. The tenderness of childhood innocence. Had some friends visit recently on their way to the Cape, dear old friends, the Dukins. And I've known their daughters in utero, and one just graduated from prep school, the other soon to graduate. And one of them has green eyes and covered with beautiful freckles. And back in 2007, I always taken with freckles and wrote this for Evelyn Dugan. The jar of freckles. Your mother takes it gently in hand from a hidden corner of the kitchen cupboard behind the honey, tea, and tin of homemade cookies, and brings it to your bedroom once in a while after you, in your 4-year-oldness and goodness, fall asleep, sprinkling it ever so lightly and quietly over the bridge of your nose and cheeks to add to the confetti of copper already there, replacing those freckles that have fallen from your face to the pillow during tossing or turning dreams, each speckle as precious as stardust. Loose dots of delightfulness Mom will collect and place inside the moon-blue glass jar and take back to that secret corner of the kitchen cupboard. The jar of freckles. And when I felt into tenderness, I was walking down this lovely street. I walk down to the sea every day, and recently was the bloom of an apple tree, and that's one of my most favorite scents in the world. Delicate, beautiful, quiet, and it took me all the way back to my childhood where I used to sit on my family's house at the corner of the yard in an old apple tree. And I was, a few years ago, walking past one, and it took me, again, right back, as sometimes scents, and especially scents will do, to this place. I'm 7 again. Early spring, up in the boughs of the old apple tree, of my childhood, a place to float in the clouds, of fresh and fragrant white blossoms, feeling my young body sing with the new sprung bird song, with my sweet boyness, innocence, that the scent of today's tree takes me half a century back to. Tenderness there, so much tenderness. I'm sure we would all agree about feeling tender toward a beloved friend. And this was written for a very wonderful friend's birthday back in 2013, who may be listening tonight, Johnny Davidson, also known to me as Johnissimo. And when I write poems, as I choose, for example, our poems for each broadcast, I wait till the energy of the day, and when people have a birthday, if I'm moved, I feel into the very day what I might compose for them. Don't know until the day arrives. So on this day, a gentle soul. The same May day, popes popped out of clouds of white smoke onto thrones of man-made grace, and anti-popes sought to steal some holy thunder when English kings married, ruled, warred, were buried. Maharajas were crowned in gold and rosewater amidst mantras and mudras. The North and South stopped being civil, went blue or gray. An airship sailed high over the North Pole, serving passengers pasta and prosciutto, and a silver spaceship from Mother Russia crashed on the moon with a weightless thud. When Carter met Castro for a smoke, I'll have what you're Havana-ing, Fidel, and future missionaries and prime ministers were born, dukes, Florence Nightingale, and a flock of night and day nurses, famous cricketers, composers, spies, and screenwriters, and along the way, a Davidson, a gentle son, a gentle man and soul, named Johnny. Tenderness. The tenderness of the rare spirits we chance to meet in life. This was for one that I had met, also for a birthday, but I met along my life path. "O Lovely Lady of the Spring" is the title. And sometimes when I compose them, I find out what was happening in that year of the birth, or decade, but usually the year, and bring that into the mix. That year after The Catcher in the Rye caught the world's eyes, Matisse put a finishing touch on his chapel in Vence. Gene Kelly danced through the bright showered streets of Paris, and radio said hello to young lovers wherever they were. A glorious child arrived and caught the world's imagination, began drinking in life and pouring out heart, following the golden rule of two and the silver light of her mother moon. As much as that girl and woman, as you, have been shaped by these indelible decades, you have shaped them truly in return, with a luminous soul and graceful hand, a tender heart, and your winsome wildflower eyes. I don't think we could imagine tenderness without all the aspects of physical tenderness, the tenderness of a body. And I wrote this poem back in 2018, and it's called Connecting the Dots. The dots of delight that cover without covering your tender body, your slender beauty, the sea of freckles that form warm, free floating constellations for two on a late, wide-awake summer night. There your Cassiopeia, here your Orion, and a whole and wondrous Milky Way. And I know we began talking about touch, and this is a poem back from the Dutch Antilles, spring of 2013, back in the island of Bonaire. And it's called Hands. The soles of our hands touch. The soles in our hands touch. And of course, there's the tenderness of deep intimacy. And this poem is titled, When a Man Enters a Woman, enters her warmth, enters her beauty, enters a deep wonder, becomes at one with her, with the other, lets her also enter him, discovers home inside another, gives and receives passion, elation, bliss, sourced from a dreamlike place, a body and soul flowing place far beyond words, far beyond all outer senses, outside all past, all future. When a man of tendermost heart, innermost desire, enters the sacred chambers, the secret garden of a greatly opening, mirroring, and inspiriting woman. You know, we think about, at least I do, tenderness as positive. And it's not that this is negative, but an other side of it is that we can feel tenderness even in loneliness. The bittersweetness, which has its own tenderness. And some years back, this poem, as I was sitting on that lovely pond I've spoken of, watching this one swan, all alone, came this poem. It fit, I suppose, my mood and place at that time inside. The Lone Swan. A sole white swan reflects in the dusk in the mirror of the lake, alone, like me, also reflecting. Each of us mated, he knowingly, I hoped forly, for life, but now, each without our one rare found mate, we float in newly solitary ways, through the long days, on the dawns to the dusks. The Lone Swan. And then there's the tenderness, for at least your poet and maybe others out there, of a sunset. It can be quite tender. I was on this beautiful ancient island in the Cyclades in the Aegean, Greece, called Kea. And it was summer. And I had the most extraordinarily tender and beautiful moment sitting, taking in the sunset. And if my Greek serves me tonight, it's Poisses. I believe, if I remember, it's pieces. Tender caress of mildest air on sea-bathed skin. Slow undress of verdant day. Yellow tresses of sun falling over our faces, over mountain faces, orchards, temples, storied shores. This night, a jeunesse of sunset stroking our eyes, brushing the mouth of the blue-silver bay and the breadth of the ocean's shoulders, with long fingers of aureolin, lemon, bismuth, and gamboge. From the island of Kea. If you've never been, I encourage you to experience it. Since I spend so much time by the ocean, I felt we have to have a poem directly about the ocean and the tenderness of the ocean. This is actually from Yucatan, from Mexico, some winters ago. Debajo de mar en calma. Underwater lies a luminous world where strands of light waver through green glassiness, where your skin softens and glows, and all your limbs move slowly as in a dream. Below the surface, tender currents caress your body. Above, a warm breath plays on your neck and face as you sweep half-open eyes over the floating landscape. Tenderness of the ocean. Then there's the tenderness of landscapes, and I'd seen a painting by a wonderful friend, Adam Van Doren, and it was a painting, Lake District in England, and he painted that in 2013, and I was at a show of his, and I was just struck that by the tenderness of that, beauty of that, and I just immediately went to a poem, as happens, and the poem is On a Deep Green Rise, on Adam Van Doren's painting. You hike with long legs up to a deep green rise, shirt unbuttoned to the sun, sleeves rolled, and stop to drink in the serene blue lake, bathe in the lather of the country clouds, long, soft, gentle clouds, their undersides still warm from the day. You lie down, face, chest, palms to the sky. Let all the elements converge. Another landscape, seascape in this case. The mise en scène at Lafitte, 01. as in 2001. A little hotel on the sea, no town, on the Mayan coast before anything else was there. A white clapboard boat with barn red trim is tied up by the shore, where soft cymbal clashes of sea sound and sound. A coterie of clouds lie mostly low along the wide horizon, a horizon with color that deepens as the ocean telescopes in, from midnight blue, almost black, to pale green marble, all cake frosted at this hour. The sand is so fine and warm beyond the circle of shade we share, where we sit together and read. You, the salty tale of Ahab's wife, me, these lines lapping onto the page. Our palapa is a little leaning tower of Pisa, or straw umbrella, planted and fluttering at the fringes like the fledgling palms with their dreams of distant treedom, and clusters of creamy coconuts and yellow birds perching on their shoulders to sing to the sunrise and sunset. A bleached white bungalow sits on either side of our cool feathered nest. The walls soak in sun as we catch the constant breeze. The scene is totally serene, the mood mellow. All clocks have stopped or unwound, and all cares have dissolved in the soft, purifying air of the idle afternoon. And one more tender landscape for us tonight. This was back in Crested Butte, Colorado, in an autumn of 1992. The hills. The hills are brown, soft, sleeping women, dusted with aspen yellow. You know, you have been looking at or have seen the scene of the feet on the beautiful ground cover, and I felt that was such a tender feeling, that experience, and also visual. And although this wasn't that place and experience, it's like that. This was back in hiking through East Brother Island in the Inside Passage of Southeast Alaska in July of 2009 is this particular poem, but it brings to mind the feeling, that lovely, cushiony, tender feeling underfoot and barefoot of this image that I have out in front of us all. And this was called moss dancing. We used the moss as stepping stones in the old-growth forest, then bare our feet to slow dance with more feeling on the yielding green cushions, pillows, and mattresses that caress our souls with silently primal softness, coolness. As we come to a close, two last poems for us tonight. This was actually written back in Virginia a few years ago. Seemed apropos for us. Remember to breathe. Inhale now. Exhale then. Inhale possibility. Exhale finality. Inhale tenderness. Exhale loneliness. Inhale freedom. Exhale serfdom. Inhale you. Keep breathing. And our last piece tonight together, the tenderness of kindness. And so I suppose it's kind of a mantra for myself of living, but it's titled Survival of the Kindest. Is my mantra, my modus operandi. Not survival, tooth and claw, of the fittest. In a world where the supply of kindness is abundant, the need urgent, yet the demand for prowess more prized, expedient, I'll keep kindness, compassion, generosity, humanity, tenderness as my king, as the jewel in life's crown. Thank you for listening and for your welcome donations by PayPal and Venmo that help support these programs and poetic arts. But especially thank you for your enthusiasms. Replays of all these broadcasts are online to share or hear another time. I hope you'll lean in again. Until then, good days ahead and good spirits.